Feeling utterly drained, Celestia went home. A simple lunch with her sister turned into an ambush interview by a reporter from the Equestria Daily, wanting to know how the school system planned to deal with the impending threat. Given that Celestia had already had the authority to talk to the press, essentially why they ambushed her, she gave a measured response to the reporter. Said measured response turned out to be a bad move on her part, as the couple of questions turned out to be a practical indictment of the school system and the numerous problems it had over the years. From the destruction of the Carolina High School facade, to the student stabbings, to the numerous problems at the blanks, to the vibe, and now this. People wanted to know what the school district was doing to fix it. With Waddle likely to retire someday, Celestia's name brought up more than once as not only a future assistant superintendent, but even the superintendent. People wanted to know from her and what they wanted to know now. Last time I speak to one of those morons at KPNY, News 5 now, my ass, she groaned as she walked into the house, tossing off her shoes and setting her bag down. And immediately getting whisked off her beat by Sable. Wow, you work fast, she said with a grin. If I heard your car sooner, I would have carried you in from here, he said, moving her over to the couch. Setting her down, he said, For milady, dinner tonight is a fettuccine carbonara. Oh my, making a dish I grew up with scratch, she said with a smirk. Aren't we being daring? I have it on the best authority that the chef, a gentleman by the name of Ragu, knows his stuff. We also have a wine from Napa Valley, the finest vintage I could find on hand while shopping in an utter panic. Last but not least, for dessert, we have strawberries, dipped horribly in a chocolate fondant and drizzled by an even more pathetic attempt to add white chocolate to the mix. Oh, and what is the cost for such a fine repast? Lots of kisses and cuddles tonight wouldn't be bad, he commented. I also wouldn't object to sex. We'll see, she commented, tracing a finger along its jaw. He took her hand and kissed it tenderly before letting go. Walking back towards the kitchen, Sable called out, The dinner's rolls should be ready in a few, if you want to munch on something. Also, did you want some wine? If you would, please, she said, cycling comfortably into the couch and sighing in relaxed contentment. Now, she had a chance to catch up on a few movies she missed. Maybe she would not look like a crippled shut-in whenever Luna and Velvet talked about something over lunch. Not paying much attention, she reached over to grab the remote. It pulled up the gun. She dropped it in shock, sat up against Sable! Something up? He was approaching her with a small basket of rolls and a glass of wine. If her panic hadn't been so pronounced, she would have noticed a jaunty camouflage apron that read, Army Vet, I know how to cook more than MREs. What is this? She said, pointing to the gun. Well, I had to guess on some variables, so sorry if things aren't perfect. It's an FDA Model 92, polymer. It's easy to carry and very simple to point and plink. What's it doing in my house? Setting down the rolls of wine, he said calmly, It's yours. This weekend, we'll hit the range and teach you how to shoot it. Don't worry, I still have my Springfield XDM. English, please. Some of us aren't ex-Army. I got you a gun because I can't be everywhere, Tia. He sat down on the couch next to her. I saw that news report. There's a madman hunting women, and I cannot be there to always save you. He grabbed the gun and held it up to this. This, for good or for bad, will. Sweetheart, for starters, I don't like guns. I'm not Second Amendment or any anti-Second Amendment or anything. I just don't like guns personally. Plus, how am I going to carry around on me? Hell, even you can't carry guns at the blanks. He gave her an even look as he caught immediately. Oh, that motherfucker. She seethed. How the hell didn't Somber tell me? Because it wasn't his call to make. He argued against it as well. But Waddle apparently asked for a list of teachers and staff who are qualified with guns, just in case. And I want to make sure that you are as well. We have a resources officer for that reason, she argued. If there's a gunman, Officer Quickdraw could be on the scene in a second. And if they take him out first, how fast until CPD gets there? How many children get killed, Celestia? How many innocent children have to die? The look in his face was frantic. For long practice and years of both her own experience and her friend's knowledge told her something was very, very wrong all of a sudden. What about you? What happens if I get a call in class from your sister saying, Hey, that woman you're in love with, time to fit her for a pint box? Sweetheart, I'm not going to die. This isn't Afghanistan. She said. She took his hand in hers. This sounds macabre, but I know. But I'm a woman in her 50s. And the killer's only going after young virgins. I'll be safe. Says the woman I thought was only a couple of years older than me. And last time I checked, people still haven't learned how to tell who's a virgin and who's not by a casual glance. To her surprise, he grabbed her close. Please, Tia. I can't bear to see another person I care about end up KIA. I just can't. Reluctantly breaking from the hug, she looked down, eye to eye, seeing the haunted look in his face. What happened out there? When were you in the army? He turned away. You don't want to know. She reached over to turn his head back to her. I'm your girlfriend, Sable. I want to know. I want to be there for you. She glanced at the clock. Look, if you haven't started cooking dinner yet, don't. We'll order Chinese or something. Just, please. She took his hand, holding it up against her cheek. No sono sempre qui prefer il mio amore, she said in her native language. At the other moment, he would have told her he had no idea what she said, but the translation in her eyes was clear enough. I'll always be here for you, love. He couldn't hide it anymore. He hadn't even been with her half a year, and everything in him said that this was the woman he was likely going to spend the rest of his life with. Even if that was remotely true, she deserved to know. And if it wasn't true, he'd be able to tell someone who could help him. Someone who had to stand by his side and fight the nightmares that came so damn often. He sighed, and when he looked up at her, a river of sorrow started to wind its way down his cheek. I didn't come back whole from Capdul, Tia. I killed a child, and no sane human ever comes back whole from that. Meanwhile, back with Cadence. Cadence watched the sandalwood crash on her couch. After dinner, she called it an early night and devoted to signing in Cadence. I wish I could help you, Sandy, she thought to herself, but I don't even know where to start. She walked back to the bedroom she shared with her fiancé, and he looked exhausted, more so especially since it was the first day off he had in ages. But he spent that day trying to keep his partner, her best friend, a woman that was in love with him just as much as Cadence was, from losing it. Ugh, this day has been draining, Shiny said. No closer to catching him, no closer to a night's rest, and I have to get up early tomorrow because Hardline wants us to go examine some possible evidence in Oregon. This whole thing is a bag of cats, Shiny. Cadence says he slipped in between the bed sheets. Maybe we should consider that offer. I'm sure it'll come up again. From what I understand, the police departments in Hawaii are always short-staffed, and the recruiters are constantly trying to poach officers from the mainland. What about you? Well, if I can't get a job with the DA's office or the state, I could always look into private practice. That should pay better. Yeah. He sat there for a moment before asking, but do you really think we should leave this place? Not really. I'm a Cadillac girl for life, she said with a tired laugh. Honestly, I don't know how Sandy managed to do so for a few years. She knew that was a complete lie, but decided not to tell Shiny the truth of that. He would be better prepared if he figured it out for himself. Then again, she knew that dealings with the fairer sex had never been Shiny's strong point. If they had, then it'd be me on the couch since Sandy here was shining. Cadence thought before brushing it away. That was for science fiction stories and other realities. This, however, was real life. And she was Shiny's fiancé. Besides, Cadence, I think Shiny Armor loves you more than you love him. Well, I should get some sleep before it's too late, he said, turning out the light. Night, love. She kissed him on the cheek before laying back down. Night, Shiny. Sunset stood up from the couch. I don't know about you guys, but I need to get some sleep. I have to get back to work tomorrow. That's tough. Are you gonna be okay? Twilight asked. Yeah, Mr. Cake asked me to just call him before I get there, so he could keep an eye out for me. Admittedly, it's during daylight hours, so I should be safe. But I can understand how he wants to look out for me. Well, we're all going to stay up a little longer and watch another movie, ITV commented. Keep the bed warm for us. Tavi, do you know how wrong that sounds? Twilight cited. Oh, sorry. Keep the bed warm for us. Twilight and I are going to make out for a little bit down here, then we'll be up for a threesome. ITV would have said more, but they got hit in the face by a couch pillow. Well, I prefer it 'cause of the side. We'll be up after the movie, sis. Night. Yeah, night, Sunset yawned before walking up the steps and into the bathroom. Attended to her needs there, grateful that the monthly hell had stopped, then went to her bedroom, changed into her sleepwear, and boom! She felt that in her bones. That wasn't an earthquake. It was a quake, however. A magic detonation. Something didn't happen when a spell misfired horribly. She knew what was that like. As a filly of 6 years, she spent a day in the hospital and the following week being attended to by Princess Celestia after she was trying to sneak cookies from the royal kitchens, ran into a bunch of old, leaking flour bags, and gave them a telekinetic shove to get them out of the way. Sunset chuckled at the memory. Most of my mane and a good portion of my coat singed. Thankfully, one of the chefs was able to put out the flower bomb I inadvertently created. But the smile fell away as she realized a huge font of magic that hadn't come for her disappeared. Did Twilight come over here and not tell me? A quick spell changed her back into normal clothing. A second spell, as he stood in front of the statue facing Caroline High. Feeling the front of the statue, it was still solid, with no indicator the portal had been opened. I'm gonna have to find a way to move the portal one of these days. I need somewhere I can monitor on a regular basis that I can't do that here. Making a mental note to look into that layer, she had two other spaces that were mapped out, and she stood on the summit of Mount Shasta, seeing the cityscape of Equestria County below. The thinner air bit at her as she quickly put up a counterspell to keep warm as she looked around, trying to avoid the one or two campers that were at the summit. There was a natural ley line here, as she found it, but with the practical emptiness of magic here on Earth, it was practically all but dead to her. With her powers back at full, she could tap into it, but she didn't want to risk turning the mountain into a volcano. Besides, the magic's dead, she thought, so her hand lay on the ice pack on top of the mountain. There's nothing here. One more place to check. And a last-second spell to keep her floating above the water just before she fell in. She was now currently 60 miles off the coast, and there was nothing out here but the dark sea beneath her, and the incredible canopy of stars above. Normally she would appreciate the view. I think Princess Luna would have absolutely loved this. But for now she had a job to do. Casting a warning spell to keep everything from the area. She then conjured a water spout to remove the water, creating a tunnel of air, allowing her to look down. She didn't dare descend, given that enough water was gone, gravity and other physics still remained, and if Sunset tried directly against the earth itself, it would be a virtual punching contest, as she didn't like her odds being hit with a plant. Still, it was more than enough to... Is that what I think it is? Her hand lit with aqua fire, as something rose from the ocean floor. A basketball-sized object arose to meet her, and a few minutes later, Sunset plucked a pearl from the air, letting the dead clam fall away. The fact that one was large here meant that it was ages old, and probably even predated the loss of magic on Earth, so she still really couldn't pinpoint. Still, this has a tiny bit of magic in it. A thought came, followed by a smile, and ah! Sunset popped right behind Twilight, freaking her out. You scared me! Damn it, should have been more careful. Sorry, sis, didn't mean to. I know. I thought you went to bed an hour ago, Sunset asked, pointing at Sunset's clothing. Oh, I suddenly felt like taking a walk, Sunset commented. You guys were busy watching your movie, so I didn't want to bother you. Well, I'm not going to tell Mom and Dad about it, but please don't do that again. You could have been attacked by that killer. The look in Twilight's eyes was one of sheer worry. Taking Sunset's hand in hers, he said, I couldn't afford to lose you, sis. Sunset's guilt kicked in. She'd been so focused on doing the job that Princess Celestia had assigned her, she completely forgot the reason she stayed in this realm. I'm sorry, sis. I wasn't thinking, and I didn't mean to worry you. Won't happen again. But Sunset's worries were forgotten as her sister wrapped her up in an embrace. I wasn't thinking, sis. I forgot the most important thing of all while I was investigating that. I can't let that happen again. She lifted the Dragonfire candle and the wind box next to it, both reminders of her duties to Equestria. But all that melted away in the stark realization the family member most worried about her. Damn, I fucked up. But as Octavia observed, sitting on the floor just outside the door, Octavia cried. She didn't know why. Just hearing Twilight's words of, I couldn't afford to lose you, ripped a hole in her heart larger than the Grand Canyon. Logically, she understood that. Of course Twilight loved Sunset. They were sisters. For that matter, Octavia loved her cousin as hate you, murder you, drink your blood, cut your skin from your body, wear it like a harder to attack to be where entrails that I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you! Well, right now, so you need to sow that. Be with two of the people who are most practically like sisters to her. Forcing herself to her feet, she went in and wordlessly embraced both. She needed them, her sisters. She needed them both. Meanwhile, there was a knock on the door to the cottage. Solar answered it. Yes? Sorry, Your Highness, the security guard began. Please, while I'm here, just my family name would do, Solar told him. Yes, ma'am. Anyway, sorry. Miss Solar, I apologize for bothering you this hour, but I wanted you to know that we've increased security patrols on the grounds. He told her. Frankly, Mr. Forrest didn't want to either, but we figured that we should before your consulate insists on increased security. Solar groaned at that. As royalty, he was technically entitled to a security detail, courtesy of the French National Police Protective Service. She disliked it, but as a living treasure of France, she could request that the consulate in San Francisco send over 2 NPPS agents, but to remove her desire that her daughter grow up as normal as possible. Apparently, Autumn had other ideas, but given the news this morning, it was prudent. She wasn't afraid for herself or her daughter. She knew long ago about the realities of living in the U.S., but that's just how things were. Well, thank you for that. It's appreciated. He smiled and nodded. Thank you for your understanding. Have a pleasant evening, and again, apologize for the service. Solaris shut the door and went back to the couch. The stack of documentation on the table and her glass of wine. On the low seat, covered by a simple throw blanket, Simmer dozed. The book in German she tried to read set aside. Solaris smiled. Ah, my little scholar. How proud you make me. At that point, Solar felt a pang of regret for not having taken education while she was studying at both universities here. Imagining how interesting it would have been to be her daughter's teacher as well as her mother. Alas, we all travel different roads. I am more than proud to serve the role that I do in your life, Sunset. Taking another drink of her wine, she went back to her main duty. One of her family's most diplomats. After all, even though France had long been a republic, there are still some times when the voices of the kingdom or empire were more suited for France's needs. And that was where Soler, her brother and his wife, and her recently deceased older brother and his wife had shown. According to this, the Vine has been meeting with a knot of Prince Odoflame quite a bit before his death. That was unusual, given her cousin's predilections towards the Sibyllaric lifestyle, as opposed to Opalflame. The latter was quite severe given his ties to the former royal family, and was proud of his duties as an officer in the French Air Force. He died during a training accident. His plane is cast off of Cariska. His sister, Princess Benefite, was one of Solare's childhood friends. I suppose friendship makes for odd bedfellows. I always thought Opal was the kind of man that hated everything Divine stood for. He certainly rallied about useless playboy billionaires who had no society. He gave it no more thought. Besides, dwelling on it more than meant getting involved in her cousin's affairs. She had no desire to be a part of that, metaphorically or literally. Setting that report down, she then focused on a request by the French government to represent them at a culture festival in Ressa in October. Feeling restless, meanwhile, back with Celestia, Celestia sat up in bed, the image of just hours ago filling her mind. Sable was many things to her, but tonight, he showed a side to her he was terrified of. As that she had privately admit scared her as well. The years in Afghanistan where he earned the nickname of the Wolf of Kabul. The horrors he had to face. The atrocities he had to commit just to keep his fellow soldiers alive. She bit her figure down to stop a sob even as tears started again. He'd been through hell and goes through it nightly. And I'm such a goddamn fool for not nosing earlier. Of course she had no way of knowing, but that mattered little in the presence of the man who slept next to her. For the first time in probably ages, Celestia thought about something other than her own needs. Picking up her phone, she quickly popped off an email to her secretary, letting her know she was taking the day off. Granted, she knew that said secretary would probably have a cow at the fact her boss decided to take a day off during the period that no school was in session, but Celestia was a workaholic, she knew. Now she had a reason to be something else. And that something else was now starting to move. Vividly, jerkily, she watched as the nightmare started claiming him again. No! She reached over it again, hoping that her touch would stop them all. And he froze up, as it were nothing. All his muscles relaxed and he calmed down. A second later, his eyes flared open and he looked at her. Hi. Hi yourself. Sweetheart, it's 3 in the morning. What are you doing up? Watching over you in your nightmares. He swore something under his breath and sighed. I knew I shouldn't have told... No, Sierra ejected. You should have. Maybe there's not much I can do. And like my friend Velvet, I'm not versed in the ways of psychology. But if it means I don't get a wink of sleep every night, I'll be here to watch over you. He sat up. You don't have to do that. You didn't have to come into my life, she said with a smile. But you did. So he leaned forward and kissed him. We're two of a kind, Samuel. You can't get rid of me now. His face took on a contemplative look, and then added, well, if you want me to move in, we'll have to figure out a time to move stuff and all that. I have an army of people who owe me favors, she said offhandedly. I'm sorry that the traditional bribe of pizza and drinks to cover it. Well, we could talk about that later. You need to get some sleep if you're going to... He was set down by her finger laying on his mouth. Not going to work tomorrow, she told him. I'm spending the whole day with my boyfriend, including learning how to shoot that gun he insisted on buying me. You don't have to if you don't want to. You want me to, she told him. Well, I disagree. It's something I can try, right? Meanwhile, back with my boss. Well, my boss is human mode. Mom, Trixie told Hermione, go to bed. Nonsense, dear. Hermione told her behind stiffly on. I can manage the store tomorrow. Must realign my tea. However, perhaps focus in... Mom, please. You have been at this since the police were here earlier. Trixie told her. You didn't eat dinner. You've been researching at the table the whole time. Dad's asleep. Lyra's caught down in my room. Used to be too, dearest Beatrix, Hermione replied. I will be okay. Worst comes to, you and Lyra can open the store for me in the morning. Trixie put her arms around her mother's embrace. Okay, if you insist. She suddenly felt her mother freeze in her arms. It can't be. It can't be! The look on Hermione's face was like complete horror. Mom? Roaring, Hermione turned and hugged her daughter tight, tears flowing down her cheeks. After a second, Trixie joined in as well, entirely due to sympathy with whatever panic her mother felt. After a few minutes, Trixie asked, Mom, what? Her mother held up a book. Canon of Damar, where the title of the author had been replaced by incomprehensible sigils. She guessed it was from her mother's research library. Contrary to what most people believed, her mother was considered an expert in various non-Abrahamic belief systems, and even taught a course on it once at Caroline Community College. Hermione no longer taught it, as she felt no one took her seriously. Instead, took the course as an easy A. Yes, she said, is a copy of a book dating back to the 14th century on how to summon the demons from the spiritual plane. While a number of the beings are within our daemons, the old spelling being benevolent spirits, more than a few are demons, modern spelling, implying those with which we have more of familiarity. Each of them has methods of summoning, but this is the one I am most worried about. She handed the book to Trixie. With some nervousness, the Alice Blue-Hair maids took the book and started reading, ignoring the horrific picture above the description. And this is just the method of calling forth the great Destroyer, who has been sealed by the prognosis wizard Merlin and his aid, a mystical wizard from beyond the lands we know. Those who wish to call him the Great Destroyer must present him with bribes, mandated by the cards, and shall serve the master who knoweth by name. Una vez más, maldito absurdo, the man thought to himself as he sat in his little fishing boat 30 miles southwest of the coast of Ensenada, Mexico. That's another day of him running his charter boat so that drunken Norteamerican gringos could have another failed fishing expedition. He chuckled. Last week had been fun, sure. The guy who paid for the cruise had been an asshole, but his wife... Oh, not only did she have a body, but the way she was willing to send topless, clearly she flaunted it. Vergaskeska cursed himself. Maybe he straightened up, lost a few pounds, and quit smoking. Maybe he got himself a sweet peach hair tail that night. The way those two acted, they weren't going to be together much longer. But he was a man of the sea, however, and any man of the sea never tied himself to the land, while he was included for long. What made him wonder why the hell he was out here tonight. Oh yes, It was the drunken stoner kids from San Diego that had hired him so he could do a little midnight fishing. Fishing, right. They came out here to drink, smoke weed, and all that shit because they couldn't do it legally on their side of the border. Of course, they could do all that shit here, and given that the head kid threw $1,000 down without question, sure. Some rich kids want to come and find a place where they can stare at the ocean at 4 in the morning and get blitzed. Personally, he stayed away from that stuff. Beer was probably his only vice, and that was more than enough of one. Looking at the helm, he couldn't help but watch as one girl, probably no older than 20, kept looking back at him. Part of it was the druggy haze in her eyes. Part of it was something else. He grinned. Maybe it wasn't going to be as lonely night as he thought. Sure enough, she saw him look at her and smiled, and started sauntering towards him, unbuttoning his shirt. Damn, these girls look fast, he thought with a grin. Boom! Sound in his ears just as the girl and her now topless glory reached him. He ignored the beautiful scene just before him as the ship buckled suddenly. Oh man, look at that shit! He heard one of the stoners exclaim, giving a girl a look that said he would be right back, and headed for the boat's gunwale. Water around him, undulating not with the movement of the waves, but as by something else, was boiling, bubbling, as he'd been placed in a giant pot on the stove. Fists waved it up to the surface. The scent from it had been cooked. Dios mío! He said softly as the water started to turn faster. Just beyond the movement, he could see the natural rhythm of the Pacific's waves move, then stopped, as it then bent to the unyielding cadence of the unnatural flow. He rushed to pull out the anchor, but found it was steadfast for some reason, and then something tugged. The whole vessel jerked, and he had the sensation of being tossed from one side of the ship to the other, like the American space show from the 60s. The water started to glow, and Virgo could make out unnatural, unholy shapes in the water. Not devils, demons, or anything of the like, but clearly not this world. He did remember stories of his grandmother, and how dark magic required a sacrifice. Back then, as a boy of 10, he thought she was crazy. Seeing her now, he knew he very much didn't want that sacrifice. Knowing he had to free themselves of the anchor before whatever yanked him and pulled him to the point of capsizing the boat, he grabbed the nearby barge pole from his position on the hull, then swung for the cleats on the side of the gunwale, breaking them off and letting the anchor's line, raced off the deck and slithered down to the chalk. Giving it a second thought, he rushed back out to the helm, gunned the engine, and sent him rushing, even as the spiraling water started to claim more than He heard a scream from the deck and turned to watch with horror, so one of the idiot stoners picked up the anchor line as a joke and got caught in it. The line did what line normally does in this situation, curling around him and thus his leg. But it got pulled tight quickly. He yanked him along without warning, so he got pulled through the chalk, like squeezing a tube of toothpaste. Virgo forced the bile of his throat down. Jane felt the iron grip of the cute girl as he held onto him in panic. In a normal situation, he knew he'd get some for sure, but now, it was a matter of seeing if he'd get to live tomorrow. If he pushed the engines, he could make ends lot and let the Maritime Search and Rescue know. In a pinch, he gunned straight east and then run them around the ground on the beaches of El Retiro. He ruined his boat, but better that than dead. The world went blank as the ocean became a massive wall of water, inscribed with unnatural, blood-red symbols. The symbols seemed to reverberate with a horrid tone, while it sounded like hundreds of voices all uttering a dark, hissing, dissonant chant. Behind him, he could hear the screams of the remaining stoners, as they freaked out about the fact that the boat was now imprisoned by a massive wall of water, moving faster and faster like a spinning top, or a hurricane. He looked at the girl, and the last thing Virgo did was kiss her. May as well enjoy that one last kiss. He and his clients didn't enjoy much more as the wall turned into a massive hurricane, sending fiberglass, metal, wood, and dead rich bodies all over the Pacific. Ooh, nasty.